Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
Port Charles had always been a city where secrets hid in plain sight, but the past few weeks had pushed the boundaries of fear, courage, and revelation to new heights. The latest General Hospital spoilers suggested that Anna Devane, one of the city's most formidable and resilient figures, was on the verge of discovering the identity of the person responsible for her terrifying kidnapping. This revelation had been long overdue, and the fallout promised to be explosive, one that would test Anna's strength, force long-hidden truths into the light, and set off a chain reaction of emotional and legal chaos. For fans, it was a turning point, a baptism not just of danger but of truth, and the consequences would ripple through every corner of Port Charles. The weeks leading up to this pivotal moment had been tense. Anna had endured the trauma of being abducted and held against her will, a terrifying ordeal that left her shaken, wary, and hyper-aware of every shadow. While the physical escape had come, the psychological toll remained. She had faced countless sleepless nights replaying the moments of confinement, analyzing every word, every gesture of her captor. Yet, in true Anna fashion, her determination to uncover the truth never wavered. She was driven by the dual forces of justice and self-preservation, knowing that the person who dared to cross her would soon face the consequences. The latest GH previews hinted at a confrontation that had been building quietly behind the scenes. Anna had started to piece together the puzzle, following threads that others overlooked. A subtle remark here, a suspicious glance there, and faint traces of evidence that didn't align with the official investigation, all of it pointed toward a shocking realization. Her instincts, honed over years as a spy, detective, and protector, guided her relentlessly. The whispers of betrayal, the faint patterns of manipulation, Anna noticed them all. Every small inconsistency became a thread she could pull, a potential key to unmasking the person who had dared to snatch her from the safety of her own life. The moment of revelation came quietly, almost imperceptibly at first. Anna, examining the last pieces of information she had gathered, suddenly recognized the significance of a small clue, a subtle behavioral pattern, a voice she had faintly heard during her captivity, and a familiar strategy that could only belong to someone she had known and perhaps even trusted. The shock was immediate but controlled. Anna's training prevented panic from overtaking her. Her mind raced through every possible scenario. Who could harbor such malice and cunning? Who could orchestrate such a meticulously planned abduction in a city teeming with secrets and rivalries? And yet, the truth could no longer be ignored. The realization hit like a physical blow. Anna knew exactly who had orchestrated the kidnapping. The knowledge was both empowering and terrifying. Empowering, because she now had the upper hand; terrifying, because the person responsible was closer than anyone could imagine, with access to her inner world, her routines, and her vulnerabilities. The betrayal was deep, layered with personal stakes that went beyond mere crime. It was a calculated act, designed to strike fear and destabilize one of Port Charles's most respected and formidable figures. But Anna, ever resilient, refused to let fear dominate her. She took a deep breath, centering herself, and prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Her next steps were deliberate. Anna reached out to trusted allies, people whose judgment and loyalty she could count on implicitly. She knew that confronting the kidnapper alone could be dangerous, but she also recognized the need to control the narrative. Every word she spoke, every move she made, was calculated. She had learned from years of espionage and personal peril that information was power, and in this situation, power could be the difference between justice and chaos. Her team assembled discreetly, aware of the stakes and the volatility of the situation. Their goal was clear: protect Anna, gather irrefutable evidence, and ensure that the person responsible could be held accountable in the eyes of the law. Meanwhile, the emotional undertones of the revelation weighed heavily on Anna. The identity of the kidnapper brought with it a cascade of memories, emotions, and potential confrontations. Trust had been violated, and the betrayal cut deeper than any physical harm she had endured. Yet, amidst the anger and hurt, Anna's mind remained sharp. She reminded herself that fear and anger were tools to be wielded wisely. Encouragement came from the knowledge that she was not alone; her friends, colleagues, and family stood with her, ready to support her in this crucible of revelation and retaliation. Their presence reinforced the idea that justice was not just personal, it was communal, a collective stand against the forces that threatened them. As Anna prepared to confront her kidnapper, the city itself seemed to hold its breath. Port Charles had witnessed countless battles of wit, courage, and strategy, but this was different. The stakes were intensely personal. The confrontation would not only determine legal outcomes but also test the very core of Anna's resilience. Every interaction, every exchange of words, would be imbued with layers of tension, subtext, and latent threat. Anna understood that the power dynamics were shifting, knowledge had placed her in a position of advantage, and she intended to use it decisively. The first public moves were subtle but pointed. Anna began to reach out to law enforcement, carefully providing leads without revealing her full hand. Each conversation, each piece of evidence shared, was a deliberate step toward ensuring that the person responsible could not manipulate the situation further. At the same time, she maintained a visible presence in Port Charles, signaling to the city that she was back, vigilant, and prepared. Her courage served as a beacon for others who had faced trauma or injustice, demonstrating that strength and resolve could reclaim power even in the most dangerous circumstances. Yet, the drama was far from over. Angry threats began to surface, a natural consequence of someone feeling cornered and exposed. The kidnapper, realizing that Anna had discovered the truth, reacted with a mix of fear and rage. Messages, cryptic warnings, and subtle acts of intimidation escalated the tension. But Anna remained undeterred. She knew that confrontation was inevitable, and every threat was a confirmation of her growing advantage. Her strategy was clear: allow the kidnapper to reveal themselves through their actions, all while gathering the evidence that would ensure their capture and prosecution. In the personal sphere, Anna's allies offered both practical support and emotional encouragement. Loved ones reminded her of her history of resilience, of the times she had faced danger and emerged victorious. Words of affirmation reinforced her resolve: she was not a victim, she was a strategist, a warrior, and a protector. Each conversation, each moment of counsel, served to fortify her mental state. Even as anger and fear threatened to overwhelm, Anna's determination never wavered. She understood that the coming confrontation would test every skill she possessed, from psychological insight to tactical planning. The narrative of Port Charles was complicated by overlapping storylines. Friends, rivals, and bystanders all had their stakes, and the revelation of the kidnapper's identity threatened to ripple outward. Allies speculated about motives, debated legal strategies, and weighed the potential fallout. Some expressed surprise at the depth of betrayal, others marveled at Anna's deductive prowess. The tension of the situation permeated every corner of the city, and anticipation built for the inevitable reckoning. Fans could feel the intensity growing with each passing scene, knowing that a combination of courage, cunning, and sheer willpower would drive the next steps. Anna's confrontation with her kidnapper was methodical. She began by ensuring that every move was observed, recorded, and verifiable. Her decades of experience as a spy and law enforcement operative had taught her the value of preparation. She anticipated threats, predicted reactions, and established contingencies for every possible scenario. The psychological interplay was crucial. By maintaining composure, Anna forced the kidnapper into defensive positions, revealing inconsistencies and weaknesses that would later strengthen the case against them. Each carefully worded interaction was a test, designed to elicit a confession or to produce evidence admissible in court. Simultaneously, Anna's presence inspired those around her. Witnesses, friends, and family members saw the embodiment of courage in action, a figure who transformed fear into strategic advantage. Encouraging words flowed between allies, reinforcing their collective mission to ensure that justice was served. Anna's personal experience became a lesson in resilience for the community. Even in the face of extreme personal threat, clarity, courage, and decisiveness could prevail. The narrative transcended the individual, creating a communal sense of purpose and moral alignment, where the pursuit of truth became a shared responsibility. As events progressed, the nature of threats evolved. Subtle intimidation gave way to more direct acts, anonymous calls, unexplained surveillance, and the occasional orchestrated misdirection. The kidnapper, aware that Anna had uncovered their identity, became increasingly desperate. Each attempt to regain control only served to illuminate their culpability further. Anna's response was a combination of caution and strategic assertiveness. She allowed the threats to expose vulnerabilities, all while maintaining a clear focus on evidence collection and tactical planning. Every challenge became an opportunity, every confrontation a test of resolve. The emotional weight of the situation intensified when Anna reflected on the personal implications of the kidnapping. Trust, betrayal, and loyalty were central themes. The realization that someone close could harbor such malice forced her to confront painful truths about human nature. Yet, the same reflection underscored her strength. Anna's resilience was forged through experience, courage, and a steadfast commitment to justice. She drew upon these qualities as she prepared for the final stages of confrontation, aware that both psychological and legal victories were within reach. The broader community of Port Charles watched with bated breath. News of Anna's discovery, though unofficial, spread through whispers and speculation, heightening anticipation. Allies in law enforcement and the Corinthos family prepared to offer support, while others plotted around the unfolding drama. The city itself became a stage for a high-stakes battle of wits, courage, and moral clarity. Every interaction, every subtle signal, carried weight, reinforcing the sense that the upcoming confrontation would be both climactic and transformative. Anna's final preparation involved consolidating evidence, briefing allies, and planning contingencies. She ensured that every interaction with the kidnapper would be documented, every potential escape route accounted for, and every legal safeguard in place. The precision of her preparation reflected decades of experience in dangerous situations, blending tactical skill with psychological insight. It was a true baptism of fire, a moment where courage, intellect, and moral clarity intersected, testing her abilities to their fullest extent. When the confrontation finally occurred, it was both explosive and controlled. Anna confronted the individual with a combination of facts, carefully observed patterns, and unwavering presence. Angry threats from the perpetrator met with calm authority only strengthened the perception of Anna's dominance in the situation. Each admission, each revealing gesture, added to the mountain of evidence necessary to ensure justice. The emotional intensity was matched only by the legal and tactical precision, creating a moment that would resonate across the city for weeks to come. The aftermath saw Anna emerging stronger, vindicated, and resolute. The kidnapper's identity, now known and substantiated with evidence, allowed for the full machinery of justice to move forward. Her courage inspired allies and onlookers alike, reinforcing the idea that even the most personal traumas could be transformed into strategic advantage. Encouraging words flowed freely, and the community rallied around the notion that accountability, resilience, and courage could prevail in even the darkest circumstances. Angry threats, though intimidating, had only served to highlight the resolve of a woman who refused to be victimized. The weeks that followed were marked by continued vigilance, legal proceedings, and emotional healing. Anna's discovery did not end the story but set the stage for accountability, closure, and the reaffirmation of trust and moral clarity. Allies remained supportive, providing both practical assistance and emotional reassurance, ensuring that Anna's position remained strong. The city of Port Charles, as always, remained a dynamic landscape of intrigue, danger, and dramatic resolution, where courage and intelligence determined the outcome more than chance ever could. In summary, Anna Devane's journey from victimhood to empowerment exemplified the best of General Hospital's storytelling. The revelation of her kidnapper's identity served as a catalyst for drama, justice, and moral reckoning. Encouraging words from friends and allies reinforced her strength, while the angry threats from her adversary underscored the high stakes. Through strategic planning, psychological acuity, and unyielding courage, Anna transformed a personal crisis into a triumph of justice and moral authority, reminding viewers that in Port Charles, resilience and intelligence could overcome even the most calculated threats. As fans watched each step unfold, it became clear that Anna's experience was more than a story of survival. It was a blueprint for courage under pressure, a testament to the power of insight, and a dramatic illustration of how personal strength, strategic thinking, and loyal support could turn a perilous situation into a moment of victory. The city of Port Charles would never forget the lessons of this story. Betrayal can be confronted, threats can be neutralized, and the truth, no matter how deeply hidden, will ultimately prevail. Case study. At the police station, Nathan wondered if Dante really believed that Michael had framed Willow for shooting Drew. The acting manager commended that he didn't know what to suppose presently. Bringing the disquisitions flyers into the interrogation room, Dante asked Nathan to go through his exploration, since he no longer trusted himself to be objective. Latterly, Nathan was looking over the lines when Molly arrived at the PCPD, seeking an update on Justine's behalf regarding the missing substantiation. When Nathan explained that he was reviewing Michael's phone records, Molly reminded the operative that the case was against Willow, not Michael, and the execution demanded substantiation against her to seal the deal. In response, Nathan questioned whether she was speaking as the assistant DA or someone close to Michael. Clarifying that she was only there to do a favor for Turner, Molly participated that she was relieved not to be on the case since it involved so numerous people she watched about. Before she left, Nathan handed her a train on the case and promised to strictly review all the substantiation to make sure justice was served. A snake among us. Making together that Alexis tricked Tracy into attesting that she'd seen Michael on Crestview Lane the night of Drew's firing because the defense didn't have factual substantiation, Lulu suggested to her former mammy that someone had eavesdropped Tracy and Michael's discussion and took the word to Alexis. Since they'd only bandied it at home, Tracy suspected the operative was someone who lived at the manse, and while she didn't suppose Dante would turn on his family again, she believed Chase might have talked. After Tracy left, Dante stopped by under the guise of checking on Charlotte. Knowing what happened at court that day and how important guilt Dante still had about Michael's time in Pentonville as a teen, Lulu told him that he didn't need to make defenses to come over, she'd always be there for him. As Dante discerned that between everything with Michael, Gio, and Rocco, he didn't trust his own instincts presently, Lulu assured her partner. Karma countdown. While staying for Martin at the Port Charles Grill, Laura got irked when Ezra approached her. The councilman reprimanded that she should be less prickly toward him since they both now worked for Sidwell before mooching to another table. Once Martin arrived, Laura told her family that Kevin had moved to Ireland with Ace, but he saw through her fabricated story about what a great experience it would be for both Ace and Kevin and demanded to know the real reason. Laura commended that she'd transferred Ace down because it wasn't safe for him to be in Port Charles with Valentine on the loose, since the toddler was the sole Cassadine heir at law. Martin replied that Valentine was only a trouble to his adversaries, but when Laura got all worked up about wanting to keep her grandson safe, he praised his family for having made such a delicate decision. Latterly, Tracy stopped at their table, wanting an update from Martin on her family heritages. He claimed that he tried to talk to Drew, but the Solon had been hard to nail down due to Willow's trial. When Tracy again hovered to shoot him to captivity, Martin promised that he'd do everything he could to get her things back, also kissed Laura goodbye and exited. Once he was gone, Laura told Tracy that she had every right to be angry with Martin after the trick he pulled with Ronnie, but she hoped they could move past it one day. Meanwhile, outside the grill, Martin flashed back to the day he overheard on Michael and Tracy's discussion from outside the Quartermain kitchen, revealing that he's the one sloped off Alexis. Across the eatery, Jacinda met with Ezra. Ezra told her he wanted to give their relationship a real chance now that the verity about how they met had come out. Taken suddenly, Jacinda covered by stating that she didn't suppose she was good for his political career, but Ezra allowed. Her new job at Crimson said else. She bothered that she'd be fired since her master didn't want her there, and Michael couldn't cover her if he ended up facing an tried murder charge. When Ezra offered to use his connections to get her another job, Jacinda declined, publicizing she was going to leave city and start over nearly differently. Allowing she was leaving city because of him, Ezra backpedaled from all his talk about the future and convinced Jacinda to stick around for a drink. But when he returned from the bar with a bottle of champagne, Jacinda was gone. Cart before horse. Following their courtroom success, Alexis and Suzanne retreated to Miller and Davis, where Suzanne presented her master with a good luck cutlet, a tradition she'd participated with her former heads the night before closing arguments. But before they could dive in, Drew and Willow showed up, and he demanded Alexis call further substantiations. Alexis informed them that she planned to rest the defense's case the coming morning, with Elizabeth's ruinous evidence and reasonable mistrustfulness for Willow fresh on the jury's mind. Not satisfied, Drew instructed her to put him on the stage so he could tell the jury each about Michael's wrathfulness and pitfalls. When Alexis and Suzanne both advised against that, Willow agreed but also placarded that she wanted to swear. Listing all the reasons why Willow taking the stage was a horrible idea, Alexis raved that Drew could do whatever he wanted to Michael. Formerly Willow was vindicated, but the two of them were going to undo all her hard work. Getting in Alexis's face, Drew ordered her to put him on the stage, or he'd deny her access to scout. "You want to swear, go for it. Don't say I didn't advise you," she advised. As the Canes left the law office, Drew promised Willow that he'd make Michael look so shamefaced the jury would have no choice but to acquit her. And when the visit hail rolled around, he crowed, she'd be the only parent present because Michael would be behind bars. "Hereafter is going to change everything," Drew promised his woman. "You'll see." Good intentions. Angry over how effects had gone in court, Michael stormed into the courtemain manse, his jest catching Gio off guard. They gabbled about how much the family enjoyed Joe's Christmas performance. Also Gio told Michael to let him know if there was anything he could do to help with the kiddies before heading out. Christina arrived as Gio left, and she apologized to Michael for not giving him a heads up that her mama would be going after him in court. She'd known Alexis's defense depended on condemning another suspect and figured it would be Michael. But she hadn't known details until she looked through one of her Mama's lines and saw an updated substantiation list that included Ezra and Jacinda, as well as an anonymous note stating that someone had seen him and Tracy on the road the night of the firing. Since she couldn't cock him off, Christina participated. She'd given Jacinda plutocrat to leave city, hoping that if she couldn't corroborate Ezra's claim, Michael's justification would still be complete. Michael also told his family that Jacinda went to the courthouse to advise him that Commodity was about to be, but was called to the stage before she could unfold. Although he didn't understand why Jacinda no way told him she'd been with Boyle, Michael felt it was a questionable point after the disastrous day in court. Still, he commended, he hoped Jacinda hadn't skipped city so they could sort effects out. Phone a friend. At Trina's apartment, she and Kai argued over whether to come forward with their dubitation. That Michael shot Drew. Trina was adamant that they stay out of it, not wanting to betray Jocelyn, while Kai contended that if they stayed quiet, an innocent woman might go to captivity. So they compromised if they could figure out whether Michael's ringtone for Wiley actually was "Twinkle, Twinkle," they'd decide what to do with the word together. Allowing that Gio might be suitable to help them, Trina invited him over. Chancing their vague questions about Michael's ringtone for Wiley strange, Gio demanded to know what they were after ahead agreeing, since he didn't feel right involving his little kinsman. Although they refused to give details, Kai swore that what they were doing was to help clear Wiley's mama, and by playing their collective "we both had secrets kept from us" card, Trina ultimately induced Gio to orchestrate a phone call between Michael and his son. Is Gio setting himself up for another disaster within his family? Were you surprised that Martin was the bone who'd discried on Michael and Tracy's discussion? Do you suppose Jacinda skipped city? Partake your propositions and prognostications about GH in the commentary below.